Our story begins with Akira, a super smart gamer who loves to dominate people in all kinds of games and thinks that school is too easy and boring. On his way to school, a large humanoid creature suddenly appears, and Akira quickly realizes that this isn't his usual bus driver. He manages to dodge his attacks, and then baits the creature into an abandoned building, where he anticipates the creature's jump and angles a pole perfectly to pierce right through him, outsmarting his opponent and winning the fight. A woman appears behind Akira and congratulates him on his victory. She says that she didn't expect him to actually be able to defeat her pet. Her name is Mion, and I'm honestly not quite sure how to describe her other than Crazy Cat Lady, but regardless, she shoots Akira and tells him that the fun is only just beginning. He sees flashes of doctors operating on him before ultimately waking up in a room filled with all kinds of people, all handcuffed. The cat lady appears on stage and explains that as far as the real world is concerned, everyone in the room is presumed dead, and that they have all been chosen at random to participate in an experiment. A man interrupts her and tells her to cut the bullshit, but instead of cutting, she just shoots him dead. She explains that this hand cannon is her ability, and that everyone in the room has been given a special ability of their own. She further explains that the experiment will pair them against each other in a variety of programs to test the effectiveness of these abilities. The first program is a one-on-one fight, with Akira being paired up against Kurosaki, an arrogant delinquent. Once the light on their shackles turn green, they'll have 5 seconds before they unlock and their powers can be used. Kurosaki has the ability to turn sticks into a sword that can cut through anything. Akira manages to dodge his attacks and run away. He baits his opponent into the science lab, where he uses his knowledge of chemistry to create a light fog and a basic flamethrower, but this is mostly just for show. Believing that he has Akira cornered, Kurosaki tells him that he should just give up, because it's clear that he was given a weak ability. Akira says that in reality, he's just been holding back because his ability is far too strong, and adds that this ability is one that Kurosaki has seen before. As Kurosaki lunges forward, Akira reveals that his ability is actually the hand cannon. He misses on purpose to force Kurosaki to surrender instead. Meanwhile, Mion was watching the entire fight unfold. She explains that Akira's power is actually not the hand cannon. You see, Akira's true ability is the power to gain whatever ability his opponent thinks he has. He was able to trick Kurosaki into believing that he had the hand cannon, and thus the hand cannon became his ability for this fight. She goes on to say that she's so excited to watch Akira advance through the other challenges and even refers to him as her sweet prince. On the other hand canon, Akira doesn't care about winning or losing, and instead plans to someday make the cat lady regret ever giving him any powers. After winning his fight, Akira passes by Yuri, a girl who hated her life. As a child, she was a victim of verbal and physical abuse from her mother. One day, she decided to be a good person and help some guy out, but he turned out to be an obsessive stalker who followed her everywhere. He eventually decided to take his own life, and by pure chance, Yuri happened to be walking by at that same time and tried to save him. She grabbed onto him, but he dragged her off the building so that they can die together as lovers, because he believed that they're soulmates. Her flashback is interrupted by the program starting and she's taken to her first fight. Her opponent is a creepy guy that I can only really describe as having the fashion sense and personality of a Discord moderator. He tells her that his ability is to smell someone's state of being, and that he can literally smell her virginity. He drops his boxers and runs straight at her. He manages to put her in a chokehold, where he confesses to her about the many young prostitutes he's murdered. He then tells her he can smell her disgust, her rage, her hatred, and it fuels him. But she manages to overpower him and quickly finish him off. Yuri has the power to quintuple her physical abilities, and for those that are bad at math, it basically means she can make herself 5 times as fast or as strong. After the first program ends, Akira is taken to a room with a few other contestants already there, one of which is Kurosaki. They have to team up together for the second program, which will be a 5-on-5 fight. The group introduces themselves to one another and reveal their powers, except for Akira, who decides to lie instead, and tells them that his power is the hand cannon. Once they arrive at the venue for the second program, they realize that it's actually not a team battle but just a series of one-on-ones. The guy in a suit goes first, and he is up against Rin. She tells him that she'd rather not fight him, and that if he surrenders she'll do anything he wants. He's very tempted by this offer, but instead suggests that they just flip a coin to decide the winner. She agrees. But while he flips the coin she immediately attacks, killing him before the coin even touches the ground. Unfortunately, the attack was too fast for Akira to learn anything about her ability. Up next is Kumagiri, who is going up against Ringo. Her power is to copy someone's ability but only at 1/10 of its full effectiveness. This also allows her to see information about her opponent's ability and sees that Kumagiri has the ability to become invulnerable for 2 seconds. If she copied his ability, she would only be invulnerable for 0.2 seconds, which is not very useful against a big chunk of a man like Kumagiri, so she decides to just forfeit as soon as the fight starts. The next 2 contestants get on stage. It's Kirasaki versus supporting character number 8. Her power is to shoot marbles that she can then transform into boulders after a brief delay, but Kirasaki is too fast and dodges and slices through all her attacks. Not wanting to kill her, he tells her to forfeit. However, she reveals that she has one more trick up her sleeve, as a marble rolls up right underneath Kirasaki and expands. It crushes his balls, granting her the victory. It's now Akira's turn to fight, but as a cool guy, he doesn't really care if he wins or loses. He's only interested in testing the limits of his powers. He holds his hand up to his opponent and tries to summon the hand cannon, but nothing happens. He then turns to Kirasaki and makes him believe that he's about to shoot him, which makes the hand cannon appear. This of course makes his opponent believe that he has the hand cannon ability and he can now use it against him. But his opponent has the ability to shield himself against attacks so long as he is touching the ground. While his opponent fantasizes about what might happen if he actually wins, Akira appears behind him and tells him to hold his hands up, forcing him to forfeit. The next fight is between Yuri and the man who caused her death. He tells her that it's destiny that they're together again, and that he'll do anything to be with her. His power is to make himself as hard as steel, which is something fanservice already does to me. But his ability is no match for Yuri, who completely overpowers him and knocks him out of the ring. The game is over and Akira's team wins. The winners are treated to a feast, while the losers must wear humiliating outfits. When Kirasaki is rude to Ringo, Akira reminds him that they were the ones who carried him to victory, so perhaps he should also be wearing a humiliating outfit. But that would require some balls, and I don't think he's got any left. For the next phase of the program, Akira splits up from his teammates, and they have a pretty heartfelt goodbye. He even tells Yuri that he hopes she comes back alive, and she says she hopes to see him again too. But their time apart is short-lived, as they find each other again right at the start of the 3rd program. They also meet Katsuya, who says he's a member of Team Green, and takes them to Team Green's base. It's a small village, where people seem to work, farm and live together in harmony. The leader of Team Green is Shirasagi, who explains that Team Green was created to oppose Team Red, a powerful faction led by 2 men who use those weaker than them as slaves. One of the leaders is Kuro, who has the ability to collect debts owed to him in the form of commands which must be obeyed. It's with this power that they control their slaves. The other leader is Ichi, who has the same power as Yuri, but due to his greater physical prowess, he is a much more powerful user of this ability. Believe it or not, these 2 men are brothers. Unbeknownst to Akira, Rin also joined Team Red. Akira and Yuri both agree to join Team Green, but due to the limited space available, they're gonna have to bunk together. Once in the room, Akira tells Yuri that his power is actually telepathy. After some convincing, she believes him and it does become his power. They spend the rest of the night talking to each other telepathically and sharing details about each other's lives. Akira starts to trust Yuri and decides to reveal his actual true ability to her, so that they can work together better. Sometime later, they receive a quest from Mion. It leads them to ruins, where they're tasked with fighting off the same kind of monsters that had attacked Akira before he was brought into the experiment. Akira is able to use his telepathy with Yuri, so long as she continues to believe in this power, while the rest of the people there believe that he has the hand cannon ability, allowing him to use both abilities simultaneously. Team Red arrives to observe the fight, so they can gain information about Team Green's abilities. To make matters worse, Mion summons a combined ghoul. In order to defeat it, Shirasagi has no choice but to use his ability, revealing it to Team Red. His power is called Force Negotiations. He has the ability to nullify someone's attack, and then direct the kinetic energy from their attack back at them. He blasts a hole through the ghoul, but unfortunately, boss battles always have multiple phases, and the ghoul gets back up. Akira and Yuri come up with a plan to defeat the boss, but they must first get out of Team Red's line of sight so that they don't reveal any information on Akira's true ability. Telepathically, he tells Yuri to switch his powers at the last second, right as the boss attacks him, allowing him to survive the attack and then switch back to the hand cannon, before shooting the ghoul in the mouth. Although this doesn't kill the ghoul, it does intrigue Ichi, who jumps down and finishes the boss in a single punch. He wants to fight all 3 of them right then and there, but the cat lady interferes and says that rather than fight, they will hold a quest called Hunt for the King. She tells them that in this next quest, whoever captures the king's smartphone and connects it to their own phone wins, and that they can use any means necessary to accomplish this. Team Red agrees to participate, but only on the condition that every single person on the losing team will be killed. The teams are given 7 days to prepare for this intense battle. Back at the green base, the now free red team slaves are treated for their injuries. Among one of the freed slaves is Ringo. Kumagiri also joins Team Green after he saves one of their members in the woods. Meanwhile, back at the Team Red base, the brothers have called in their most powerful members to fight alongside them in the upcoming battle. A spy from the green team also reveals to Kuro that Akira's real power is not the hand cannon, and that there's much more to his ability than meets the eye. The next day, Akira goes into the woods to further test his powers with Yuri. He tells her to concentrate and to imagine him as another person to see if that would give him the ability to shapeshift. It works, and he transforms into an apple. They continue to train in secret until the day of the battle finally arrives. Mion tells them that throughout the fight, they can gain points that they can then use to buy favors from her. Team Green chooses Shirasagi as their king, while Team Red chooses Ichi. The best strategy is for the king to stay hidden, so Shirasagi stays out of combat. But staying hidden would be far too boring for Ichi, so he decides to join in on the fight and beats everyone to a pulp. Elsewhere, Akira runs into Rin, but they actually make a secret deal together rather than fight. Rin doesn't really care who wins or loses, because she'll win either way by helping both teams. Meanwhile, Team Green is losing the battle on various fronts to Red Team's powerful generals, and this is causing Akira to doubt whether this fight is actually winnable. He's used to winning games on his own, but now he has to rely on other people. Thankfully, he's never had to play League of Legends. Yuri arrives just in time to save her friend, and tries to hold off Ichi until reinforcements get there. On the other side of the battlefield, Kumagiri is fighting against a bartender with the ability to shrink things. He uses that power to slice Kumagiri's arm off with a thin piece of string that he had wrapped around it. Kumagiri flashes back to his childhood, where he watched his brother fighting in the ring as a wrestler. But an unfortunate car accident killed his brother, and thanks to his brother's organs, Kumagiri was able to go on living. The spirit of his brother tells him that it's okay, that he doesn't have to hold back anymore, and he can use his full powers. Kumagiri activates his ability, becoming invincible for 2 seconds, and beats the bartender within that time frame, proving to all men that you can accomplish a lot even if you only last 2 seconds. Elsewhere, Akira runs into Kirasaki, who reveals that he joined Team Red just so he could rematch Akira. Kirasaki is too fast for the hand cannon and pins Akira to a tree. But right when he has Akira in a pinch, he warns him that an attack is coming from above and saves his life, because he wants to be the one to kill Akira. Kirasaki calls a truce and decides to fight Rindo, the swordsman with the same ability as him. This was all part of Akira's plan. He had worked with Rin to bait both of these men into this area so that they would fight each other. While Kirasaki distracts Rindo, Akira fires a hand cannon shot from behind the tree. Rindo anticipates this and nullifies the attack, but he didn't anticipate the splinters in the air, which Kirasaki kicks back at him, killing him on the spot. Moments later, Akira arrives to confront another one of Team Red's general, but this old man tells him that he knows that the hand cannon is not Akira's real ability. Akira panics and runs away as the general chases after him. But he pulls out a sword from behind the tree, which the general instantly recognizes as Rindo's sword. He starts to speculate that Akira must be really strong if he was able to defeat the legendary swordsman, and wonders if Akira might have the ability to copy powers. Akira then slashes at the old man and finishes him off rather effortlessly. He reveals that he was actually the one that leaked the information about his hand cannon ability being fake, so that his enemies would start to speculate, and therefore give him the opportunity to trick them into believing that his ability is something else entirely. Back at the main camp, Shirasagi and Ringo have captured a spy, but when this spy is murdered, they realize that there is another one among them. It turns out to be a grandma. The old woman grabs a baby hostage and threatens to kill it if Shirasagi doesn't throw his phone away. When he questions her motives for betraying them, she reveals that Kuro and Ichi are actually her children, and that she's willing to do anything for her boys. With no other options, he throws his phone away and allows himself to be shot down in order to save the child. Granny calls Kuro to tell him that the Green King has been eliminated. But when Kuro calls Mion to confirm this, she says that they haven't won yet and that the Green King is still alive. At that moment, Akira arrives in front of Kuro and reveals himself as Team Green's real king. Kuro had anticipated that something like this might happen, and surrounds Akira with an army of his slaves. Akira is immediately captured by 2 slaves that Kuro had kept hidden in a bush. Kuro then goes on to explain how every single decision that Akira has taken up till now has been a part of a carefully calculated plan to bring him exactly at this spot, so that he could kill Akira himself. Akira falls to the ground, supposedly defeated. but in reality, he was the one actually manipulating every single decision made by Kuro. You see, the red team member who leaked that Akira's hand cannon ability was fake was actually Akira in disguise. He had captured one of Team Red's members and, with the help of Yuri, was able to shapeshift into him. Then he walked into Team Red's base, where he was able to gather all kinds of information, including what slaves they had, and thus what powers Kuro had access to. He even saw Kuro's knife and knew that because of his ego, he would want to finish off Akira with his own hands. He tells Kuro that he now has him exactly where he wants him, and uses Shurasaga's ability to finish off Kuro to avenge his death. Meanwhile, Ichi has defeated pretty much everyone else, including Kirasaki and Kumagiri, who showed up to help Yuri. While having a mental breakdown, Ichi has a flashback to the orphanage where he grew up. This is where he first met Kuro, who at the time was always reading a book called A Kingdom for Everyone. They shared a simple dream to someday build a kingdom together where everyone could be free. But these ideals were beaten out of them by the headmaster, who repeatedly told them that they're not human, that they're worse than trash. Granny was one of the caretakers at the orphanage, who witnessed these savage beatings and failed to protect the boys. One day, Ichi finally accepted that he truly wasn't human. He went wild and bashed the headmaster's head in. Back in the present, Akira arrives to stop Ichi. Prior to the fight, Yuri had practiced envisioning Akira with the ability to end the fight in one immensely powerful punch, and as long as she believes in that ability, Akira can win. He dodges Ichi's attack, and unleashes every ounce of his power into a single punch that sends Ichi flying. Ichi thinks to himself that he's lived a truly rotten life, but it wasn't all that bad. It was pretty fun actually, and that maybe, him and Kuro together is all that was ever really needed for their kingdom. With the Red Team Kings defeated, Mion arrives to congratulate Team Green on their victory. Akira later wakes up in his own bed, in his own house, back in Tokyo, where he's reunited with Yuri, and the cat lady is never too far behind. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Recap Sensei, and I hope to see you all again in the next video.